So a very different institution and scale of bank than we have today. 241 people in total for the bank. We were only 2 or 3 years old at the time of the war, and obviously a lot of Australians heading off to fight. And by way of example, you've got the Hobart branch, 22 people in the branch, 14 of them volunteered to go and fight during the war. So, you know, a huge proportion of our workforce. In total, the equivalent of nearly all the Commonwealth Bank workforce at that time ended up going off to fight the war. The bank at that time, over the course of the war, grew from 14 to 36 branches, so bigger, but still very small in the scheme of the institution that we are today. And as men went off to fight in the war, we obviously needed to find other people to do the work, and so a lot of young people and a lot of women came into the bank as well. At the start of the war, we had about 21 women working at the bank, and by the end of the war, 582 women, roughly 40% of our entire workforce at that point was women. So they're making a huge difference, but also really laying the foundations for women working in the bank, the professionalisation of women in the workforce, really a huge change for the institution. This was the Commonwealth Bank branch in London at the Strand. During the time of the war, we had nearly 200 women leading that branch, running it, and they were processing payments up to 3,000 transactions a day. So small in the context of what we do today, but when you think about the manual work that they were doing, we were effectively making sure that all the soldiers across all the different theatres of war, whether they were in Greece, Turkey, the Middle East, in Europe, in London, that they were getting paid their war wages effectively. So 400,000 Australian soldiers, all of them being taken care of by the Commonwealth Bank to make sure that they got paid on time. Obviously the government needed a lot of money to help fund the war and efforts at home. They went through 10 different bond issuances, a number of war bonds that were issued during the time that the country was at war. Dennis Miller, or Governor Miller of the bank, took on the responsibility of organising all of that bond-raising issue across the entire community, travelling around the country. He had a war bond committee that he chaired and ran to help run all of that machinery, and really that was vital in terms of providing the financial fuel into the whole war effort and making sure that he mobilised Australian communities, businesses, all of the different parts of the country to give to those efforts to fund the war. So guns fall silent, 11th of November, but then I guess the really hard work of bringing our servicemen and women home to Australia and focusing on rebuilding their lives commences, and the bank and the government at the time placed still a lot of emphasis on helping to support our diggers, our returned servicemen and women, and setting them up back here. So there were 3 peace bonds that were issued, the last one in 1921, which was the diggers bond or diggers loan. And the focus of that was really supporting our returned service people to help build homes in Australia. So there's a great picture here of Dennis and Miller laying one of the foundation stones that was a part of the houses that were being rebuilt for diggers to come back to Australia, have somewhere to live. Obviously a lot of them were broke after the war and the country had changed dramatically, and the support that we were able to offer them, this work that we'd put into the bond issuance program, I think this is a great example of not only supporting the war efforts but really supporting the peace and the rebuilding of Australia as a country during that difficult time. Real connection for me to see the real prevalence of women and the contribution they made during that time, obviously supporting the bank, supporting their community, and the huge difference that our service men and women make. Many members of the bank today who still serve in those domains, and obviously the resilience shown by the folks at that time, the 14 of 22 members of the branch team in Hobart who went off and served, the sacrifices that they would have made. I remember as a child, you walk around the city and you see the monuments with "Lest we forget," and the words are complex when you're young, you don't really understand what they mean. But as you grow older, you really appreciate the full weight of the sacrifices those people gave for our country and how much we benefit today based on what they've done, especially for the CBA folks before us who've gone off and made that sacrifice incredible.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old.
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn.
At the going down of the sun and in the morning,
we will remember them.